I'm here with Capitalist at the main event, Key Arena, day one. You're our first interview. It's quite an honor.
It is quite the well. Any hotbed interview is an honor, right? It's like you ask me, like, do you want to do an interview? I'm like, of course I want to do an interview. The hotbed interview, man. That's like the what Toby put it, the holy grail of interviews, right there.
And you're here. You're casting the international. Did you expect to be here a year ago?
No, I didn't. It was always a goal. Like, it was even going back just a couple months ago when they were first starting announcing. I was like, okay, I really hope I make it. You know, obviously, never expecting to make main stage in under a year like that. So, you know, it was like once they announced the group stage and I got invited, I was like, oh, this is amazing. I get to go to TI4, actually be part of the production. That was my goal to begin with. Is just being part of the production in some way. You know, whether it was actually casting or, you know, any other capacity, really. And how are the conditions? Valve conditions. The Valve conditions were interesting. I mean, they had us in their offices. We were casting out of some of their rooms. For example, one day, Waga and we were sitting in Studio 3, I think it was, and it's right next to the gym. And so there was, throughout the whole entire cast, we could kind of overhear like some 90s music going on, and Valve members just lifting a bunch. Apparently, Valve members are all like damn fit. All I could hear is like, "Argh!" And then, you know, the banging of the lifts going down. It was just like, this is really distracting. But it never went on air, so it was like, might as well just get past it. But all in all, it was fantastic. I love being there at the offices. It was a lot of fun. And you now work at Join Dota. Mm-hmm. You moved to Germany from the United States. How is that? That's been an adventure so far. So when I originally got the first Skype message from Toby, and he was like, would you be interested in a full-time job? And I was like, you mean like actually moving to Germany? And he was like, yeah. And I was just, my mind was blown. I was like, yeah, sure. But that was February of last year. And I didn't move until December 1st, and that was because of military. So I had to get out of the military first. But then when I moved, that was quite the adventure, starting pretty much all over with nothing but cash. Like, I wasn't bringing much over with me except for clothes. So being in a place that... You're bringing your American work ethic, of course. Of course. So I've been scrimping and saving and living off of a sofa bed all these time. I literally have sofa bed, desk, washing machine. That's all I have in my apartment. And so you were in the military, and you decided to do casting full time, or were you just doing casting on the side in the military? What did you do? So basically, when I started, I started actually doing Dota 1 and Han at the same time, but it was just for fun. Basically, a friend suggested that I do it with him. He didn't show up when we were going to go cast, so I did it with another person. Got some good feedback, really enjoyed it, but it was always sort of like, you try and do it, but I didn't really have enough time to fully commit, and I just kind of like stagnated from there. And I was casting with absolute legends at one point in time for Dota 2. You know, it was all these sort of like very, very part-time gigs that weren't really taking up a whole lot of time, because I was doing Marine Corps Reserves at that time, while also having a civilian job, while also trying to have a life and girlfriend, all that sort of thing. So it was working out, but I obviously wasn't going anywhere. And what was your civilian job? My civilian job was I drove a forklift, pretty much. I was part of I was a ship loader. Literally carried. Yeah, I literally carried things all the time. I was just like 2 tons, easy, no problem. Okay. But yeah, I worked at an industrial paper factory. So carrying the coworkers in Join Dota stacks, no problem then? Oh, yeah, I carry the whole Join Dota studio all the time. Who's the best player? Other than Milk. Okay, yeah, it's obviously Milk, but then it's me. Then you? Yeah, what about Toby? By far. What about Toby? What about Toby? Toby play? He doesn't have time to play. Well, none of us really have time to play, but Toby has been casting a lot longer than the rest of us and hasn't been playing, you know, full time. That's a very diplomatic way of saying that. He sucks. Yeah. Yeah, he sucks. Okay. What's the transition been like in Germany?
What's different about it?
Well, it sucks being in an area where nobody speaks English.
No one speaks English, really?
Nobody speaks
I
English.
thought the Germans would speak English.
So that's a common thing. Is like I complain about living in Berlin, like, oh, nobody speaks English, and a bunch of people are like, oh, that's BS. I went to Berlin, everybody speaks English. Where I live is a place called Spandau, and it's like the retirement community of Berlin.
So you live among the old people of Berlin.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to live there?
Because that's where the company is.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just like I'm,
So you live with old German people.
Yeah, I live with old German people, and even like a lot of the young people or some of the. It's just like nobody seems to speak English. So I've just gotten by with. I've gotten really good at facial gestures and pointing and grunting. So that's now my new language. I actually know enough German to be able to order myself a durum, but that's pretty much it.
And what did you do for the military?
So I worked in admin actually, which was really boring. That was a long story.
Isn't that good though to be? You don't want to do the dangerous stuff.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. In that regard, it was good. I was only stationed inside of the U.S., so in that case, I was very fortunate. I actually started trying to do like more combat engineer stuff at that time, but because that's where I was part of a combat engineer battalion, so I was trying to do. I did a lot of that actually instead of admin work. I was like, I don't want to be in the office, so I just would go out and join the combat engineers.
Did you have to do all the training and stuff?
Yeah, constantly. I miss it sometimes, but other times I remember like waking up in the middle of December near the ocean doing cold weather training, which is essentially doing training while you're really cold and they're teaching you to stay warm. But it was some of the worst times I've ever had, but also some of the best times. So.
Okay. And full-time Dota casting now? Mm-hmm. You're living the dream.
I am. I'm making that big esports money.
Yeah. Okay. We all know that's not true. We're all in the industry. It's a funny joke. I gotta clarify that because people are gonna be like, Cap's making bank.
They're gonna be like, oh man, I mean, he's dressed up right now. He must be making all that. No, it's again, sofa bed, washing machine, desk. That's the only reason my apartment is that way is because that's all I can afford, and I refuse to borrow money. So
the international is what makes us feel like red carpet.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. We get all of the paparazzi around, and we get all this free food and all this sort of thing.
So what's it like working with Toby?
Toby, I've actually been really pleasantly surprised working with Toby. So we were already friends from like casting together and that sort of thing. But coming over, I knew he was a hard worker, but I didn't know like the full extent of how hard he works, and he really does put everything into his work, and that's something that we have a common bond there, that both of us we just try and put everything into what we're doing, and in that regard we've actually become really close friends. So I've been really happy because obviously everyone else in the Join Dota, there's only a couple other members, but I don't really work that much with some of the other people as much as I work with Toby. So being able to come in and actually have like a really good friendship like that has actually been, one of the best things about moving to Germany.
Okay, now that you've fluffed him enough, let's talk about what it's really like.
I started this out with saying he sucked at Dota.
Okay,
all right.
What is it really like working with Toby? Like, give me a story about him.
Okay, so what's it really like working with Toby? So Toby can. Toby's a talker, to nobody's surprise.
You are too.
I am, but somehow I end up being the one listening more often than not when I'm with Toby.
I think everyone is like that. He's a very big personality.
He is, and in that regards, we've had our differences once, and we both got pissed off at each other, but we got over it, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of one good story that I have.
Office pranks?
No, he doesn't really play office pranks, but Toby and I are both like we're the dirty bastards of our office. Like we're the ones always cracking dirty jokes. Zoe will actually join in on it oftentimes, Milk as well. But Toby and I are just kind of always. That's I suppose our dynamic in the office. But I don't know. I can't really think of one specific thing that really stands out about me and Toby.
Have you ever messed with him a little bit?
Yes, all the time. I bust his balls constantly, but that's kind of my personality. But I always make fun of him for being old. For I'm trying
He's
to.
Old?
He is old. He's not really old.
Yeah.
You know,
old
but
compared to the Dota players. Everyone's old compared to those guys. They're,
Yeah,
They're like
that's true.
teenagers.
Yeah, well, he's. I mean, I'm only 23, so you know, he's got a number of years on me. So I always making fun of him for something, whatever I can get my hands on, just because you know he's the big guy. He's got a you know like he doesn't.
Very famous. You're the other guy.
I am the other guy. Literally the really.
Cast with Toby.
It's okay. So walking around with Toby is a nightmare, man. It's like
with you.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever we're walking around, actually at ESL was the first chance that I actually had the opportunity to like people consistently coming up to me and be like, oh hey, and actually meeting fans and that sort of thing. Because all the other times I'm walking with Toby, and you know, Toby's. First of all, he's the most popular caster. He's got a very recognizable voice, and he has hair that just sticks out in the middle of a crowd. So it's like people instantly zoom onto him, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's Toby!" And you're like constantly being stopped, and I'm just like, we're walking along, and I'm just like, I'm gonna go. I don't really want to sit here, you know. So. But yeah, so I like to be able to tear him down as much as possible.
Okay, got it. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You're what's it like being the capitalist?
What's it like being the capitalist? Well, think of your best dream possible, and that's
Okay.
my life.
Outside of Dota, what do you do?
Okay, so there really is nothing outside of Dota. So I work constantly, but when I do have free time, I'm still very much a homebody. I go home. I would actually like to play Dota games. I don't really play much else, honestly.
What are your interests? Like, other than Dota, what's the one thing you know the most about? Like, as a human?
What's the one thing I know the most about? I don't know, man. It's always
You really can't say nothing?
No, it really has always been Dota. Okay, ever since like I started in Dota 1, and I've like bounced back and forth between like other games, but I've always gone back to Dota, and that has always been my mainstay. So even now, when I have like I finish up casting, and you'd think I'd be tired of watching Dota, I still want to actually play Dota.
Everyone wants to play after they do their work. I know that.
Okay.
Okay. So you guys you know, work together. Toby, Melk, Zoe, who are a couple, by the way, and that's public. And you work with the office couple. You work with an office couple.
Yes, I do.
What's that like?
That can be interesting. There's every couple has their sometimes their fights and that sort of thing. But honestly, I really like both Milk and Zoe. Zoe's actually been, I didn't think, you know, just like seeing Zoe as a personality on stage and that sort of thing, that's the only real thing I've seen about her. I was like, okay, I'm not really sure how I'm actually going to get along with her, but it turns out she's actually full of personality, and she gets in on the dirty jokes and that sort of thing, and so does Milk, and in that regard, it's actually kind of fun watching them like go back and forth, but there's certain times where you just
like watching them fight. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, sometimes in the office, and I just look at Toby and I'm just like, ooh, you know, I just like, let's get out of here, you know. Just because you know, every couple has their fights, and when they work together, it can be even worse. But
and you guys have a staff cup. You guys are on a staff cup team.
We are all on a staff cup team. Well,
you guys almost won, right?
We almost won. It was because it was me and Milk, pretty much. Trying to do it was Milk doing as much work as possible. I was just making sure that I wasn't feeding and trying to contribute. Then it was Toby, one of our good friends, Durka, who's a frequent co-caster at both of ours, and then Press was actually our fifth member this time around.
And who did you guys lose to? Who's the best staff?
We lost to the French team.
The French.
There are a bunch of guys who like played, you know, they used to play like semi-competitively and that sort of thing. So
okay,
it's all five of them.
No Johns, man.
Listen, it was Milk, me, and you know a couple other like 5K guys. I think we'd had it easy.
Okay.
But
all right. Well, tell me your little giddy story about TI. What's your biggest memory right now?
Okay, so can I cop out on that and actually give you ESL?
Sure. Yeah, ESL 1's fine.
Because really that's actually I've been describing it as that's my TI, because that's the chance where I got to be on the main event and be like actually LAN casting and actually being able to, because then I'm not necessarily outshone by Toby so much, because then I'm the other caster, but I'm also on screen as the other caster, so people actually recognize me and come up and say hi. And for me, that was a blast. That was the first time I've ever had to be gotten the chance to do something like that, and. So my giddy moment was the first time I sat down to cast for the first game of ESL. I was literally shaking. I could not stop my left hand from shaking. I was like, I don't get nervous. I don't. I'm a really, really laid back guy. But there are very few times I can count in my life.
Well, yeah, that crowd was pretty. Like that was the first time it was a crowd like that. So.
Yeah, it was insane just hearing the roar and everything and going, don't fuck up, don't go fuck up.
You obsing?
And yes, I was.
Oh my God. Okay, that's a lot of pressure though.
Yeah, there is a lot of pressure, but I wasn't really happy. I was really happy with the way TI4 group stages casting went. Me and Waga, I thought that worked out really well. My ESL casting wasn't as good, and I know that because even though a lot of people came up, I got a lot of positive feedback. I wasn't satisfied because I let the land dictate too much. So there are a lot of things like the camera wasn't very good, but there's a reason for that. It's the first time I've ever had to go, I can't look at the Roche pit when people are doing Roshan. I don't want to be that guy. Like, I remember a moment, Faces Void sitting in the secret shop at the dire side, and he's actually looking, he's facing into the Roshan pit. He wants to jump, he just doesn't know when. And I'm trying to show that on camera, like in the corner, but if I move over too far, we get the Roshan sound effects. He's gonna know, he's gonna jump. He's going to throw down a chronosphere, steal the Aegis somehow. It's going to be all my fault, right? So I'm like, all right.
Well, that's when you're like, oh, which team do I want to win? And then you just.
Well, I honestly don't really have.
Well, they have observers this time. It's better with observers. You guys don't have to worry as much. You just follow around.
Yeah. I think sometimes I think it's good if you have dedicated observers. If the dedicated observer works with the caster a lot, so you have to actually. I think you actually have to have a go-to back and forth, and I wouldn't mind having a dedicated obs. It's just somebody I would have to work with a lot and
really,
actually be able to explain, okay, when I'm talking about this, let's focus on, being able to follow that team fight or, actually be able to wrap up this action before moving to the next or something like that. I don't know. I think a lot of people just, they look at
it's caster preference.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is. I know that Toby isn't a huge fan of it.
I know Toby's not a fan of it. Toby wants the control.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't really like giving up the control. I mean, he said he's open to it. He's just hasn't had a chance to work consistently with a dedicated ops. So.
Okay. Well, there's games to watch, so I don't want to, this is like, we're keeping you from actually experiencing it. So let's just, let's wrap it up. Do you have any shout outs, any thanks, any words for your fans?
I want to give out a shout out to, so there are 3 people who've gotten me to where I am, 3 big key people. One of them was a really old buddy of mine in St. Rabbi. He was the guy who first originally got me to cast. He wanted me to cast with him, and he's been really supportive the whole way. The other one is Chappie, the complexity manager guy, and he was actually the one who who actually bugged Toby to have me come co-cast with him, and even though that was a disaster the first time around, Toby was nice enough to keep me around, and co-casting with him has gotten me.
What was a disaster? What happened?
So I was still a main caster at that point in time. I never co-casted before. It was hard for me to let up control. It was hard for me to sit back. Exactly. It was like I would be saying something and action would come up and I would just take over it. I would call it, and it made for a really awkward dynamic. And I after the game, I was just like, I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time letting go of control. But he was nice enough to keep me on, and that's kind of gotten me where I am. So Chappie, of course, and then the last one being Toby. So.
Okay. And you have a call out?
Yeah, I do have a call out actually.
Okay. Who is it?
So Toby had this whole when we're at this hotel, I'm gonna be working out every day, and he was like him, Zoe, and Milk. They all agreed to this, and I was like, oh, I'll do it too. So far, I've been the only one who's been doing it consistently. Toby hurt his shoulder somehow or his ankle or something, it's just he's been using that to get along. He's worked out 3 or 4 days, but he's been slacking.
You're trying to keep him healthy.
Yeah, I am trying to keep him healthy. I'm trying to keep all of Join Dota healthy, man. Just because I need to keep healthy too, and I'm terrible at motivating myself. So if I can motivate others.
That's a good call out, because that's going to make them do it when they get back to
And
Germany.
it's not just Toby, Melk and Zoe too. I'm calling both of them out.
They're complacent. They're happy. You know, they don't need to work out that much anymore.
Yeah, I guess so. They're all lovey-dovey with themselves. So.
All right, thank you, Capitalist, and hopefully next year main stage. Fingers crossed.
Hey, road to TI5. I didn't really try. I never expected to make main stage this year for obvious reasons, but I do like to shoot high, and I'm gonna be aiming for that. I'm gonna be aiming for that.
Well, hopefully we'll see you there. Thank you very much for the time.
Hey, thanks so much.